So, happy Wednesday, everybody. And as always, here we are with a bit of Championship Rugby League with the man himself, it's Craig Lingard. Hello, mate. Are you well?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Absolutely. Tickety-boo, my friend. Tickety-boo. Before we get into Championship Rugby League, let's talk a bit of Rugby League in general. It's been announced or rumoured or almost done and dusted that Mr. McDermott has decided on who his assistant coaches are going to be for England. Sean O'Loughlin, Paul Wellens are being rumoured for that. Wellens, of course, over in Australia. O'Loughlin over here. Do you like the balance of that?
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think it takes away the issue that were there previously. I think there were always a little bit of a potential club bias there with the people that were there historically, and I think it gives that good experience, that bit of a variation of styles, variation of sort of people as well. And they said Paul Wellens over in Australia, developing over there, and you've got Sean O'Loughlin as well, who's quality player and by all accounts a very, very good coach as well. So I think it's a decent appointment.
Yeah, and I'm really pleased for Wellens. I mean, after what was, let's be fair, a torrid time last year, and I think, he'll still have regrets over the way in which his departure happened at St. Helens. To be given, the responsibility of assisting an England team in a World Cup, it's got to feel good for Paul Wellens, that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's always difficult when you're in such a high-profile job at Saints, when you've been there as a class player, I guess as a legend, as a player as well. There's always that danger that your legacy can be impacted to a certain degree. And I think it's probably great for Paul that he's over in Australia now, he's away from all that, and he's cutting his teeth in a different direction as well.
Ooh. Don't know what happened there. Absolutely couldn't agree with you more. We wish, but and again, in Sean O'Loughlin's case, an up and coming coach. You would expect at some point, perhaps Sean O'Loughlin to maybe throw his hat into the ring for a head coach's job. You would expect at some point.
Yeah, potentially. I guess it depends on the individual, doesn't it? What's the ambition of the individual? Some people are just really happy being an assistant coach and being in and around the players. It's a completely different role as head coach to assistant coach. You're a little bit more hands-on as an assistant, more balls, whistles and cones. The head coach's job, it's got a lot more involvement off the field, I guess, behind the scenes with the board of directors, commercial and all that sort of stuff. So there's a little bit of a different agenda at times with being the head coach, but I guess it depends on each individual. How long do you want to be an assistant coach? Because as soon as you're a head coach, it's very, very difficult to go back to an assistant coach, certainly at club level. So, you look at Lee Breers. Lee Breers has been an assistant coach now for a number of years. I think he's very, very smart at that and understanding that you've got to get your first appointment as a head coach right, because if it goes wrong, then it might be an only opportunity that you get. So it's maybe a little bit more. There's a bit more job security as an assistant coach. As soon as you step into that head coach's role, like I said, it's very, very hard to drop back into being an assistant coach.
Yeah, I mean, case in point there, Ian Watson. I mean, obviously Watson was revered at Salford, went to Huddersfield, didn't work out for him there. Now, of course, assistant at KR. Will Watson get another crack? Certainly at Super League or above level. It's questionable, isn't it?
Yeah, potentially. I think with somebody like Ian Watson, though, he's got that reputation, he's got that respect within the game that he has been a head coach for a number of years, and he has got that track record. So I don't think that'll have an impact on him to a certain degree. So I would imagine that any head coach's jobs that come up, he throws his hat in the ring, then I think it'd certainly be a consideration.
Right, let's get into some other news then. First of all, let's a bit of good news. I like Joe Edge. at Widnes. I do. Penned an extra 2.5 year extension to his contract. Good business for Widnes. I'm right in thinking, I think he's only ever played for them. He's a one-man club as well, Joe. That's good. That's good business down at Widnes, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. I think the way that it's played this year, I think he's been outstanding. He's been exceptional. We played against him a couple of weeks back, and it's certainly a threat out there and out there on edge. And I think he's one of them sort of players that, if they keep him fit and keep him out on the field, then obviously Widnes are going to be a better team when he's out there. I think the form that he's shown this year, I think it's deserving of that 2-year contract. And by all accounts, there were Super League clubs that were sniffing around as well. But he's shown his intention of staying at Widnes by signing that no longer term deal.
Yeah, and of course, North Wales. We didn't expect the North Wales games to go ahead. It did. Massive win for Gould, which is not surprising because a lot of the North Wales boys were plucked out of there when things got a little bit shaky. So first of all, North Wales remain within that. Surprisingly, and I'll just say this, I'm surprised that Doncaster's game has been awarded 48-0. We have seen precedent across the league this year, in terms of the Halifax situation where I've not seen that. I've not seen that those games have been rearranged. So as an outsider, I'd love the Rugby Football League to clarify that. I'm not going to press you on that, but I'd like Rugby League to clarify that. When I read that, I was like, well, how can Doncaster get a 48-0 win, but then other teams who have not been able to play opposition for similar reasons this year, they're being asked to rearrange? And I think that there's a little bit there that I personally would like the Rugby Football League to clarify. I won't push you on that because I think that would be unfair. But as a fan of the game, I just don't know what to make of that. I really, really don't. I don't know. Have you been caught up in any of that this year? I think you've had games this year, haven't you, where you've not been able to play?
Yeah, with the Halifax game, where our rearranged game now is this coming Friday.
Fair.
So both ourselves and Barrow, who were due to play Halifax and ready to play Halifax, that the games got cancelled. We've both got to play the rearranged games. And as you said,
forgive me. Like I say, I wasn't sure if you've been caught up in that, but like I say, on behalf of Sheffield and Barrow, I mean, I don't really know what the difference is. And look, I'm sure there's a reason, but I think that just from a transparency perspective, I think the fans need to know that, because there'll be a lot of fans that have been impacted by that who will be asking the question, why has that 48-0 been given to Doncaster? Because that, Doncaster are doing well. Don't get me wrong. Doncaster are doing well and looking like they are going to be a playoff side in 2026. But there's other teams that have been caught up in that actually at the end of the season, that result, had they been given the same 48-0, could be the difference between playoffs and not. And like I say, from a transparency perspective, I'd be very interested to know. As always on RFL, it'd be lovely to know. But and if they do get in touch, I'll make sure we put it on our socials as to why that decision has been made. In a year whereby finances have been a little bit all over the shop, good to see that the Hunslet chief executive have come out and said that they're in a good place, that there's no concerns. I think that's good, isn't it? Because I think more clubs maybe should follow suit with regards to that, because there's so much concern at the moment in the second tier in terms of, is there any more clubs that we don't know about? We've had Halifax, we've had North, we've had Featherstone, and there will be, people worried. So I think for CEOs and chairmen to come out and say we're okay gives a bit of confidence, doesn't it? And I really like that.
Yeah, it does, and I think the statement was quite a well-worded statement as well, because although it was saying that we are in a good situation financially, we're not in too much trouble. I think there were also the fact that they put out there that they were, I guess, reliant on sponsors as well, and they wanted to generate more people coming through the gates to increase the finances from other avenues as well, because you are reliant on sponsors, and if you've got a couple of benefactors that are putting a large amount of money in, and then for whatever reason, if them benefactors, if them sponsors, their businesses struggle or they have financial issues for whatever reason, then they decide they can't put that money in anymore, then that circumstance can change for the club as well. So it's really important that I think it's great that we've got that information coming out, that they are financially stable. But I think the message out there as well is get your feet through the turnstiles and get your bum on the seat and come and put your money in there and spend as much money as you possibly can to support your team.
Absolutely. We always promote that. Let's get through the turnstiles. One of our members, Mr. Billy Ingram, who watches this religiously every week, Craig, 18th man on tour on X and other social medias, is at your game this weekend.
Right.
So he's going to be coming to say hello to you. Might even be doing a little bit of work that we can include on this program next week. What it's like to be at that game. I think it's the Halifax game he's going, actually. I think he's going to the Halifax game. So keep your eyes out for Billy Ingram. I'm sure he'll come and say hello. He's a big, passionate watcher of Championship Rugby League, and a fine Super League Royal member is our Billy. So be kind.
I'll be as kind as I possibly can.
Absolutely. And Billy, if you're watching, Craig does like a coffee. Just saying. Always come with gifts. Right, let's start off with the Eagles, mate. Off to working. So for once, I said this before we went on air, for once the pitch looked lovely.
Right, yeah, it was outstanding, mate. Really nice day as well. I think it's one of the first times I've been up to Workington, and it's not been windy or a gale force wind blowing down. It was an absolutely beautiful day up there.
Beautiful stuff. And again, mate, what a first half. Blew him off the park in the first half, 24-0, and then you lose the second half. I think it was 16-4 second half.
Yeah.
Great first half. Walk us through it. You must have been delighted at half time.
Yeah, very pleased. We had a bit of disruption again pre-game. Martin Riley pulled out. His son was poorly in hospital, so he stayed back and was in hospital with his son. So I had a little bit of disruption there, missing a couple of players again, as per usual this year. So it was really pleasing that first half that we talked about process and going through the process of completing ending sets well and getting the opportunity to attack and the first half were ideal for us. It sort of panned out as we'd hoped, really. I think we spoke at half time as well about our next step now as a group is trying to be a little bit more ruthless than what we had been previously, and we weren't quite ruthless in the second half. And possession wise, Workington had a lot more ball in the second half. We didn't complete as well as we did in the first half, and that's where the points came for Workington. So we trained last night, and again we've had that conversation about what is the difference, what is the mindset switch from the first half to the second half, because I think with how we've gone so far up to the halfway point this season, I think we've suffered a lot with people missing out, but I think we're actually still in quite a decent position compared to where we potentially could have been with the number of players that we've had out. And if we could just change that mindset or fix that mindset of being more ruthless and continuing to do what we've done for a longer period of time, now we're hopefully going to start to get some people back after the break, the Challenge Cup break that's coming up for us. Then we're going to be in a decent position, but we just need to make sure that mindset switches a little bit and we focus a bit more on how to be more ruthless.
Do what Matt Peake did at Warrington, get a big TV screen, never write off Workington. That might work. But actually, some really good individual efforts. First of all, Billy, a great hat trick. Any hat trick in any game of rugby league needs to be celebrated. Some nice efforts in there. You must have been delighted with his contribution.
I've been delighted since he came to the club. He came mid-season last season in that difficult period that we're having as a club as a whole, and he came in with the attitude that he brought in, the desire, the work rate, just the effort that he brings. He's not the biggest individual, but he's one of these people that probably runs twice his weight, and I think now with some of the rugby that we're starting to play, he's getting the benefits of that. And I think he's in double figure tries this year. I think he might be 12, 13 tries in all games this year. And it's just rewards for how his conduct himself as a player and as an individual.
Absolutely. And tell us a bit about Massey Matongo. Had some lovely touches in the game. Tell us a bit about him.
Massey is a great character, really, really lovely bloke, proper genuine bloke. I think we know the qualities that Massey's had coming through the system. I think an England night player in his early part of his career. He's still a young bloke, and I think Massey's one of them people that the longer he plays, the better he gets, the more minutes that he can do. And he's actually starting to develop into being a real leader for us now. He's developed his voice. He's more confident in and around the group. With the group that we've got this year, it's a really, really sort of close, bonded group. And I think he feels more comfortable coming out of his shell, being able to speak as well. So I think the development that Massey's shown this year has been absolutely first class. And I think he's somebody, if he wanted to, he could actually go back into Super League and play top level rugby league. He's got that ability about him, and he's playing longer minutes as well. We're seeing a slightly different side of him.
Should be an agent. Happy days. And then I have to say, for me, probably the try of the game, Lenny Ellis. Oh, some lovely feet there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. If you can go and find it, go and watch it. Absolutely beautiful try that.
Yeah, it was a bit ad hoc really, because they had a bit of a mix up on that right edge, and the timing were off on the back row and the centre and the full back running the shapes that needed to run. So I think Lenny just looked up and saw that the timing was slightly off and just stepped back off his right foot back against the grain, and I think another couple of steps and he managed to find his way to the line. But I thought the try of the game for us was the crossfield kick from Harry Bowes to Ryan Miller in the corner.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I just like the feet.
Yeah,
I like a nice pair. I'm like Brian Clough. I like a nice pair of feet. Nice. Well, no, you're right. I mean, you did, mate. You scored. You did score some very easy on the eye tries, and it must be great to get another 2 points on the board. Speaking of 2 points, a team that have been deprived of a lot of them this year is Gould. Of course, they were the beneficiaries of playing North Wales. A convincing 80 points to 0 rout here. It was what it was, wasn't it? It's just a good 2 points for Gould.
Yeah, it is, and it's much needed for them as well. And I guess the good news story is that North Wales are still going on, they're still existing, they're still playing games. I actually saw Jack Miller on Thursday night in the coffee shop just before we were going training, and they weren't sure whether they were going to be playing the game on Thursday night. So I think they got told they got up until Friday 12 o'clock. So they were prepping to play, but they weren't sure whether they were going to go ahead or not. But they've been told to prep until Friday at 12 o'clock for the game on Saturday. Even though the squad needs to be in 48 hours before the game, and they weren't in there, they were still not sure whether they were going to prep play or not. But obviously the game went ahead, and I think the result that everybody expected.
Absolutely. Let's go to what we thought was going to be a blockbuster game. And on paper, people who tap into Oldham 18, Doncaster 10 might think, oh, that was a bit of a ding-dong. But actually, Oldham were pretty much in control of that game for probably the first hour, really. It was only a late rally call, really, from Doncaster. Their tries both come in the second half, one in the last 15 minutes or so. With all what's happened at Oldham, to go and beat a team that's playing as well as Doncaster and to play so well as they did, this is a really good result for Oldham.
Yeah, it is, and I thought I've seen quite a lot of the game, and I thought Oldham were very, very good. I don't think Doncaster were anywhere near as cohesive or showed the quality they've shown so far this year. But you've got to, I guess, credit Oldham for that. Just because one team doesn't play as well, you've got to make sure that you don't put all the focus on that's why they lost. You've got to give the credit to the team that's won the game, and I think the way that Oldham have played over the last sort of 6-7 weeks have been absolutely first class. And other than London, the form team in the competition. And I think maybe Doncaster are struggling a little bit with the inconsistency of week on, week off, playing a top-end championship team to a team that were potentially in League One last year and getting that consistent game time and that consistent competition, which is, I guess, something you've got to cope with in this league this year.
Yeah, absolutely. There's times when I watch Josh Drinkwater and I think, what's he doing in the Championship? With a great, when he's on, Drinkwater is a really, really solid player. I think him and Riley Dean as a combination is very, very good indeed. They've got the tools, Oldham, haven't they, to keep pressing forward. Yeah,
they have. If they can keep that squad together, I know they're still talking about the finance, I guess, to take over, but hopefully it's in a real, real good position now. And if they can keep the squad together, then they're going to be a force to reckon with between now and the end of the season coming into the business end. What you don't want is potentially a new consortium coming in, taking over, realising that they're probably paying a little bit too much on wages, which can't be maintained. They need to move some people on. Hopefully that's not the case, and they can maintain the squad between now and the end of the season. Like I said, be a real force to reckon with come playoff time.
Let's go over to Halifax, team that you're going to be playing this week, of course. 30 points to 16 win over Dewsbury. 4-4 at half-time. Tri-fest second half. But, I mean, Halifax came into this off the back of losing 4 games. So to turn Dewsbury over 30-16, this is a step in the right direction. And yet again, a team in form is just before you're playing them.
yeah, we always seem to get that, don't we? No, I thought Halifax were really good. A very, very good performance from Halifax. So the outside backs, particularly left edge, Johnston and Carter on that left edge carried really strongly. And I thought the halfbacks managed the game really, really well. I thought Dewsbury maybe lacked the experience of Danny Addy out there. He was missing. Dan Coates were missing in the halfback as well. So I think that they were impacted by that. But I thought it was a really professional performance by Halifax. Pretty ruthless in that second half once they got going.
Yeah, Alfie Johnson got a try as well. That was at Warrington.
Played well, mate. He carries well.
Yeah,
very.
But mate, he's a nice lad as well. Yeah, if you get an opportunity to have a quick word with him, honestly, he's a cracking lad. He's a specimen as well. He came from obviously Union Sevens, converted into league. It's taken him some time, I think he's got the tools, the lad. I really do. Very good under the high ball. He's got pace. And like I say, he's not shy putting his hand up as well. So good to see Alfie on the score sheet. And Alfie, mate, if you're watching, good to see you doing well, mate. I think there's a player there. I really do in Alfie. I think he's a good player. But yeah, you're gonna have your hands full, mate. They're in great form, aren't they? They're in great form there. Well, I say great form. It's the first winning four, but they're in great form after that game. They'll be coming into yours very much so, up for the fight, I'm sure. Keithley 22, Batley 26. That must make you smile. Batley 26-22. Yeah. Again, close game, 12-all at half time. This was a proper tussle, and Batley came out on top.
Yeah, I think Lucas Walshaw got a couple of tries and he's been missing for quite a lot of the season as Luby on that right edge, and he's a big physical thing. I think he's one of them players that maybe frustrates supporters and coaches alike, because you see the size of him, you expect him to be running through brick walls, but he's not that sort of player. He's a bit more tactile with his late footwork and movement within the tackle as well. And I think Batley is certainly a lot better when they've got him on that right edge. But I think it's a much needed victory for Batley. Is that I think they'll be struggling a little bit for form and consistency. So they'll certainly take big credit from that. And against the Keithley side, which I guess they were in a little bit of form themselves. Beat Halifax a week before, and knocking up a couple of victories.
Yeah, I mean, as a coach, I mean, Keithley, they got off to a shocking start, 12-0 down. They dragged themselves back to 12-off at half time, and then it's rinse and repeat in the second half. They go down by 2 tries early in the second half. I mean, they didn't help themselves, and like I say, proper coach killer that. I mean, to start off badly in the first half, they probably had a chat and said how important it is to start well in that second half. And like I say, to have a carbon copy of the first, they really didn't give themselves too much of a chance, did they? Really?
No, they don't. And I guess as a coach, like I say, it's one of them frustrating things. Your question to the team is, what did we not do well when we were 12-0 down? What did we do well when we clawed it back? What do we need to keep on doing? And the players know the answer. Then it's about going outside and executing that. And then it's getting that knowledge to the execution part is a difficult part of coaching and a difficult part of playing. I think once the players know what they need to do, it's then down to them to make sure they execute it, to be patient. And it's one of them. Is it a 70-30 offload that you can try and push it or not push? Do you need to make that decision to drag it back in just to get into that process, that set for set contest, and build yourself into the game rather than forcing something that might not necessarily be there? It's a very difficult one at times to get that balance right.
Absolutely. London 64, Midland 0. I think Midland will be disappointed with the 0. I would say nobody expected Midland to go and win it, but I think they'll be disappointed with the 0. A 12-try game for London. Roro getting 4 in this one. Maria getting 4. So yeah, both of them getting 4 in the game. How, Dimitri? I mean, how difficult is it? Is it difficult as currently to be? I mean, not from a point of view of winning, but to keep those players on the straight and narrow and focused and professional, to keep pretty much running over teams. As a coach, I mean, I don't think you've had the privilege of that.
I've never been there, mate, so I don't know.
No, you're not.
Thanks for that.
But yeah, I'm just being honest, mate. but if you were ever in that situation, that's got to test the coach, because you can almost see those London players just, I'd say, lads, and that's where injuries happen. That's where potential losses can happen. So, in its own way, how difficult a coaching role has he got?
Yeah, it can be difficult. I think when you've got a squad like that, though, the quality of players that are there, I think it almost polices itself. I think it's really important that when you've got a squad like that that's winning, that it's got to be player led. And they've got to make sure the standards are driven by them internally. And you might have 3, 4, 5 people in a leadership group that if they can see things that are slacking, then the coach needs to he makes sure that he needs to lead the standards, but rather than going around with a hammer and hitting people, it's just almost like a little bit of quiet word with the leadership group and say, look, this has dropped off a little bit lately. We need to make sure that we focus more on that. And there's little areas within the games that you can maybe focus on. So is it a completion rate thing? If you're 40 points up, does it matter? Particularly whether you're completing 100%, probably not. That's probably a time where you can maybe try a few things and work out maybe some new shapes or some new moves or some new combinations or whatever it might be. So you can accept as a coach there that your completion rate might not be as good as it would be if you're just absolutely ruthless. So I think it's good for a coach as well to maybe test yourself with working in a slightly different way. You know, as a coach, you always want to be completing 100%. You want to be scoring 450 points every week. You want to be conceding 0, but you're not quite there. So as a coach, you players and try different things just to keep them switched on. Do you maybe move a couple of people into playing in positions that they never played before? Just make sure that you're giving them a little bit of a kick up the backside and saying, I'm making sure you're staying focused here. I'm going to challenge you in a slightly different way. So I think as a coach, you can maybe change your mindset week to week and even during the game at times.
Interesting, mate. Interesting. I'll tell you what, though. Let's give another coach a big rap. Anthony Murray, Swinton. Big win last week for them. And then what do you know? They go and back it up. 12 all at half-time, an exceptional second half from them. You know, they really did kick on very, very well. Swinton Lions fans must be, you know, in Wonderland in terms of what's happened in the last few weeks. It's very, very pleasing for in terms of what he's doing there.
Yeah, it is, and you know, Muzz is a great coach. You know, he's always had that thing in his armoury where he's worked wonders at clubs that have not got a great deal of finances. It didn't start off as a great season at the start for Swinton. You know, they were getting beat week in, week out, and there were some hefty defeats in there as well. But he's come in. I think he's maybe benefited from the North Wales situation, picked up a few players from them and strengthened with a little bit of experience. Like I said previously, you know, I think it was a squad where Swinton's have got a lot of young, exciting talent there, but needed some experienced people just to get them around the field and get them through certain situations. And they've done that by bringing 4, 5, 6 different people in now to strengthen that squad out. And I think you can see the difference now that with that experience that they've got that excitement and that quality there as well with the younger players, and that's shown over the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah,
like I say, it's that little sprinkling of quality. It makes a massive difference, doesn't it? But well done, and of course against his former side, that has stung a little bit, I'm sure, for Whitehaven fans. But anyway, there you go. Newcastle Thunder 54-6 win at Rochdale. Convincing performance from Newcastle. This one, bit of a tri-fest for them. They just keep ticking along, Newcastle, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They're getting more and more impressive, aren't they? You know, with the performances they're putting out there and the scores that they're putting on the board as well. You know, they're sat high in the table, aren't they now? So it's disappointing for Rochdale, I think. You know, I think they're a team of Rochdale that on the day, I mean, we caught them on a good day for them, and they beat us. I thought they were exceptional that day, but they've not quite managed to meet the heights since, I don't think.
No, absolutely. Like I say, Rochdale got the first score in this. They scored that. They got their try first, and then after that, it was 54 unanswered points. But when you look at, you know, the likes of Sam Cook, who I thought attributed himself really well in Super League for York Knights, you know, when he went across and played for York, he was there at loose forward. Pemberton and Nicole Williams, they were in the halves. Again, you talk about that quality element. You know, some real quality players there. John Segaga as well, who. Of course, he was in second row, wasn't he? Good win, really good win for Newcastle. They just keep ticking along nicely. I think he's at them all. I think we've done them all, haven't we? Salford. My apologies. Salford. That's the one we've missed. Widnes 32, Salford 6. Good win for Widnes. You know, Widnes just keep marching on. They're in great form. Widnes Vikings. You know, they're really in a really hot streak of form. A Widnes. Salford had no real answer for him on the day. Jensen Winley, he was there on loan for Salford in this game. Brad Dwyer was back, having, of course, played for Castleford recently as well. But you know, they just couldn't live with Widnes on the day.
No, they're playing really well Widnes at the minute. On a rich vein of form. I think they brought a couple of people in on loan as well, didn't they, from Super League clubs, just to strengthen them a little bit. I think it's something you need to be careful is that when you're bringing people in on loan on a week-to-week basis. I know Jack Billington was supposedly there for the season, but I've noticed he's back in the Huddersfield squad this weekend. Is Jack, you know, so he's coming for a week and back. That's always something you need to manage, right? Because you can upset your own players if you're bringing people in on a week-to-week basis, you know. But obviously, it's working well for them at the minute. So, obviously, Alan's getting that balance right at the minute. But yeah, form-wise, Widnes little bit similar to Oldham. They're up there at the minute, aren't they? Just keep winning.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'd be amiss of me not to say, reading League Express this week, Andy Wilson. I got to mention this. Andy, of course, formerly of the media, head of media. I think it was head of media. I can't remember his official position at the RFL before he stepped down last year. But Andy Wilson did a great column for the Oldham Doncaster game entitled "The Show Goes On." It's a good read. It's a really, really good read. So, Andy, if you're watching, enjoyed your article, mate. Keep up the good work. I'm sure you will. Right, let's take a look then at what we've got this week in this one. And looking at this, it's just your fixture. Is it a week off this week for the 1895, isn't it?
It's 1895.
So it's a week off in terms of the championship this week for most of the clubs. This is where they've slotted in that Halifax Sheffield fixture. Mm-hmm. Interesting that the Doncaster one's not being played on Friday against. Anyway, let's see if the Rugby Football League come back on that one. But like I said, when we just went through the results a few moments ago, mate, that's a good win that for Halifax going into that game against yourself, and it's at Halifax. That could be a test for you, mate. How are you feeling going into it?
Yeah, all right, mate. All right, I think as a group, we're in a good place mentally. I think we're in a good place morale-wise as well. As I said previously, it's a great group that we've got. They all look after each other. They all enjoy spending time with each other. And the last couple of weeks that we've had, I think it's been really positive for us, just to give us that little bit more momentum moving forward. I think I mentioned last week that the players had a bit of a meeting prior to the Widnes game about just rediscovering that, I guess, that fight and that determination, that desperation to defend the goal line, which had gone missing a little bit. And I think it was Ryan Miller who said it didn't understand why, because there'd been no falling outs within the group. The group was still really connected and close and enjoyed spending time with each other on and off the field. And I thought we saw a response and a reaction in the Widnes game, and then obviously going up to Workington and getting the victory as well. So it's been 2 really positive weeks for us. We were hoping to get a few more players back from injury, but we haven't. So we've potentially lost another 1 or 2 from the weekend as well. But we should get Martin Riley back, and we should get Kai Morgan back available as well, who missed last week due to his HIA. So as we've seemed to have been doing for the last 5, 6, 7 weeks, we get a couple of people back and we lose a couple of people. So we're just rotating around the same numbers but different bodies. But it's nothing new. So we're quite used to doing that now. But it'd be nice not to have to do it and have a few more people to choose from. But it is the sport that it is, and it's we need to bring the same mentality and the same attitude that we brought the last couple of weeks, because we know that Halifax are going to be physical. They're going to challenge us, real strong outside backs and a strong middle and some smart pivots as well. They've strengthened themselves over the last couple of weeks by bringing some people in either permanently or season-long loans, which has strengthened them. So it's going to be a close, exciting contest.
Well, let's hope so. Headache at 6. We can't coming back. It's the decision you've got to make. Because like I said, it's not got a good game at the weekend, but we'll play Kai as well, though. So I'm sure you'll make the right decision, Mr. Lingard. We'll hold you to account next week.
I'm sure you will. I'm not decided myself as yet, mate, if that makes any help.
1895 Cup, of course. Donny can't play this weekend, of course, because we're in the 1895 Cup. And I'm going up against London. Now, of course, we did hear, that Doncaster were itching to have another crack at London. Here we go. That said, off the back of the performance at the weekend just gone, they're going to have to be a lot better. It's a thankless task for me. I think London are just, as you say, too much quality in the roster. I think London, I read somewhere that their narrative is they want to go unbeaten, and rightly so. At the end of the day, when you consider the squad they've got and the position that they're in, that has to be the aim. That for me is the only, forget the cups, forget the 1895 and the grand final win. That should happen. It is, can you go unbeaten? Why wouldn't that be the goal? And I just can't see Doncaster eliminating them from the 1895. Can you?
No, I don't think I can. And I guess just going back to the question that you asked earlier about how do you keep them motivated, that's something that again you can do as a coach. You can set targets. Like, we want to be unbeaten all season. Can we create some records? Can we concede the least amount of points that's ever been conceded in Championship? Can we score the most amount of points that's been scored in Championship? as well as winning both competitions. So there's targets that you can set the group in as you go through. It might be that you set a target for the month to say, right, we don't want to concede any more than 20 points in the next 3 or 4 games, but we want to score so many points. There's little targets that you can put on the group as you're going through and testing in that particular way. But yeah, I can't see anything other than a London victory. I know, looking at the Doncaster team, I'm not sure whether it was injuries or selection wise, but they were missing Reece Lane, James Glover, Connor Robinson from the team that played on Friday. So they're going through a bit of a situation at the minute. I know we were looking at Richard Orn's team selection. I think he's been very, very smart and rotated his selections week in, week out, just so he's got the match fitness into his players for when people are missing through injury. So I think how he's managed his selection so far this year has been really intelligent. So hopefully they can make sure that if it is long-term injuries or even short-term injuries, that the players that they've brought in fitness-wise, that they're there and ready to go. But yeah, I can't see anything other than a London victory.
And then you go to Oldham Midland, and again, Oldham in great form. Midland, of course, at the moment, having a few bloody noses the last couple of weeks. Oldham at home, they'll fancy this one.
Yeah, definitely. I think, again, they're favourites out there. The form that they're showing, the way that they're playing, it'd be difficult. We're seeing that Midland's coming off the back of 2 defeats as well, one against Swinton and London, that you can't really see them turning Oldham over. But again, we've seen strange things happen, haven't we? And if Midlands can get back to anywhere near the form that they've shown in the early part of the season, then they can really put a stiff challenge out there to Oldham.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we spoke last week about the 1895 Cup and, where does it sit, etc. These teams that are in the semi-finals now, do you expect all of them to press on and go as far as they can? Or do you see, because, we have seen in previous rounds, squads being tinkered with, people being given rests and it not being taken as serious as perhaps if it would have been, had there been IMG points on the line, had there been some sort of financial benefit there for them going forward. What's your take? Do you expect strong squads at the weekend?
As strong as possible. I think if you've got any players that are maybe carrying a bit of a niggle and they're 75%, 25% fit, I think them players might be left out because, as you say, it's not like you're playing. You're aiming to play at Wembley anymore, and there's not a great deal apart from the gravitas, however big that is, of being the 1895 Cup champions in 2026. Regardless of what it gives you or doesn't give you, it's still always nice to win that trophy. So yeah, I think they'll go with strong squads, but I think there'll also be that little bit of rotation there for anybody who's maybe carrying a little bit of a niggle, who's maybe played longer minutes than they ordinarily would do because of squad depth or whatever it is, or positional depth. There might be a few people rotated out, but I think we'll see fairly strong squads.
Rochdale taking on Goole. I'm leaning towards Rochdale, I have to say. But that said, Goole, having scored so many points, they've certainly got. You'd hope that their attacking shape's good in terms of having that one out against North Wales. But I fancy Rochdale. If I'm going to go one way or the other, I'm going to go Rochdale.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, is this, for me, because you see like Goole coming off back of that really big victory that they've got. Rochdale, I think since they beat us, they've not won a game. I think they've lost the games fairly convincingly as well. So they're in that period where confidence-wise has that been shot a little bit. They might see this now slightly differently, I guess, contradicting what I've just said. They might want to see this as a stepping stone to get back onto some form, and they might go as strong as they possibly can do. I know they've been struggling a little bit injuries-wise of Rochdale as well, and I think they're a bit similar to us that they're playing with what they've got at times, but I think they'll probably go as strong as they possibly can to get into that semi-final, but also to try and generate a little bit more form leading into the league campaign. Yeah,
absolutely. And then on paper, arguably for me, the tie of the quarterfinals, Widnes taking on Newcastle. That should be the tie of the quarterfinal. Of course, it's being played at Robin Park Arena. I think they put I read that, is it a limit of 1,000 spectators? I think they put
I've not seen that one there.
I mean, yeah. So they moved the game to Robin Park, and I'm pretty confident when I say this that I have read that they put a crowd limit on it of 1,000, which Widnes have come out and apologised to fans because, of course, their average attendance is comfortably over 1,000.
Yeah,
this year it's probably I'm gonna have it a guess, probably around nearly 2 is what they're averaging. a game, maybe even a little bit over that as well. So there are going to be some supporters, I think, that are going to be a bit disappointed that they're not going to be able to watch this game. Obviously, I won't get into the ifs, whys, and wherefores of why it's gone to Robin Park, but it is an odd one for me, especially with the links that I mean, I know it costs money to put on games, and of course, Robin Park, smaller facility, cost-wise maybe a little bit less, but with the relationship they've got with, like, for example, Warrington, if they were going to move it, I'm surprised maybe they did approach Warrington, I don't know, but to make sure that their supporters could get to watch this, and of course accommodate travelling fans, because you'd expect a handful of Newcastle fans to make the pilgrimage. Surprised it weren't being played at Warrington, with Warrington meaning to lose. But anyway, there you go. But enough of that. On the field, this could be a real good quality cup tie.
Yeah, I think so. It's the two teams that are in form, the top 4, 5, 6 in the table, aren't they? So on paper, it's got the makings of a real good game, real exciting game. And I guess maybe said this a couple of times with Newcastle. We'll see we'll see how good that form is when they're playing a team at the top end of the table. But as mentioned previously, the roster that they've got, the players that they've got, it is a top end championship squad. Is the squad that Newcastle have got. So I think it's a real exciting tie. And yeah, the 1,000 fans that get in there, I guess it's going to be a real good game to watch. And maybe they missed out on an opportunity there. They could have done maybe a bit of an auction to raffle these 1,000 seats off and try and generate a little bit more money. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, look, when you look at where they are in the league, of course, both on 18 points. The points difference is interesting. Newcastle plus 257, Vikings plus 104. So there's scoring more, conceding less. Only ever so slightly conceding less. They've only conceded 6 points less of Newcastle. So both defences pretty similar. But the strike power of Newcastle thus far this season has been a little bit better. Of course, not taking into account the teams that they played. But I just think that this one, I would say get down there, but you can't. I would say get down there, but you can't do that. But I just hope that, again, normally Widnes are pretty good in terms of showing the games. This is one that I will watch in its entirety. I do think that I think it's got the makings of a really good cup tussle. And there's something about cup ties, isn't there? There's just something about them. When you get a really good cup tie, there's nothing better because there's no second chances. And you get that, don't you? Sometimes you feel that in a cup tie, that the players understand, it's now or never, and it just makes for such a better game.
Yeah, it does. It is what it is. It's a knockout competition. Like I said, there's no second chances.
Yeah.
And it's one of them games you've got to leave everything out there on the field. And I guess for Newcastle, it's for them being a relatively new team. I think maybe they put a lot of focus on this cup game. To be the 1895 Cup champions, that'd be a massive feather in their cap for such a, I guess, a newer team, should I say? They've been around a few years, haven't they? But a newer team, just to get some silverware in the cabinet for them.
And I'm not saying they would. I'm not saying I know this is contentious.
I know where you're going.
You know where I'm going to go. I'm not saying they would, but if Newcastle were to play London in the final with the relationship with York, we could have a game.
Yeah.
We could have a game because they could look at it and go, yeah, go on then.
Yeah.
You can have a Hingano for the week, have a bit of Atta and you go. Bit of Paul Moore.
Why not? Why not?
But do you know what? Wouldn't that? I mean, do you know what? We've talked about the 1895 and we've talked about where it currently sits. But if that was the final and York and Newcastle came to that arrangement, it would create headlines. It would give it a platform. Wouldn't it? It would be very, very interesting indeed. Ooh, they'll get drawn to the semi-final now, Wolf.
Yeah.
We won't be able to have it. But wouldn't that be outstanding? Anyway, there you go. As always, a whistle-stop tour of Championship Rugby League. The London Broncos still sit on 22 points. In 11 games, they've amassed 619 points. That's just ridiculous. And they've only conceded 96. And that tells you that there is a disparity. There's no question about it. Underneath that, though, absolute, in terms of competitiveness, if it weren't for London, what if you take London out, if London wasn't there, if they were already in Super League, we'd have a league table of Newcastle, Oldham and Widnes all on 18 points. Yeah. Underneath them on 16, we'd have Doncaster and Barrow. In touching distance will be Midland on 15. You on 14, only 4 points off him. Dewsbury on 12, and then Keighley and Batley on 10. I mean, that is a competitive league. There's no doubt about it. At the moment, you take London out of that, it would be all on, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, yeah, and I think it's good to see that the league is that tight, is that close. As I've said previously, I'm not a massive fan of the format of not playing certain teams. I think to have a genuine league team, I think you need to play every team exactly the same amount of times, and then you get that consistency and continuity throughout. But there's no denying that it's generated a close competition.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. And of course, if you're Halifax Panthers fans, you end round number 12 not on the bottom of the pile, thanks to North Wales. So they'll be delighted. But it's only 2 points. It's only 2 points in it. So even that, it's all to play for. Mate, as always, absolutely loved it. We'll be back next Wednesday with more Championship Rugby League with Mr. Lingard. Go and enjoy the Halifax Sheffield game. And of course, like I say, if you can, maybe catch that Widnes Newcastle game. That one could be well worth 80 minutes of your life. Or if you're Sam Burgess, over 2 hours. From me and Craig, enjoy your rugby league. Bye for now.